Okay, so the eMOTIMO SA2.6 is a really cool motorized system that allows you to motorize the combination of a Dana Dolly and a DJI RS3 gimbal. Really cool system, but what I want to do today is kind of show you how to set it up because there are some parts involved. You're probably going to want to figure out how to do it. Now, the first thing you need to do, obviously, is you need to basically get your gimbal attached to the Dana Dolly. So you're going to build the Dana Dolly just like you normally would, and just put it here on the shuttle. Now, the first thing you're gonna need is going to be this. This is a power base for a gimbal system. This is a tilt-a-power base. Other companies make one, like Small Rig makes a really good one. But essentially, this just allows you to hook it up to a head here and not have to have the battery on there. So I'm gonna go ahead and just drop this in here to my head, lock it in, and now I'm pretty good to go. And from then, I'm just gonna go ahead, now that I have my power base, I'm just gonna take my DJI RS3 Pro in this situation, lock it in just like you know to do, and last but not least, I'll go ahead and I'll put my camera on there, and this thing is somewhat pre-balanced, as you can kind of see. Now, once I get this all hooked up, I do need to find a way to power my gimbal, obviously, and for something like this, you're gonna wanna use V-mount to just make your life a lot easier. You can use any V-mount battery on there. I tend to find, make sure you're using at least 95 watt hours, but I like to use 150 watt, which is what I got right here. And now I also want to make sure that when I mount this thing, I mount it pretty securely onto my case. I don't want stuff falling off. So I just took a basic V-mount mount and just hooked it up to my Dana Dolly shuttle. You can find these everywhere. I actually have a tilted one right here. And you can just take your V-mount now, and then essentially, once you put it in there, it just hooks into your Dana Dolly shuttle, so you don't have to worry about it. It's just now part of the system. It's not going to come off. It's going to be pretty good to go. And once you get that battery on there, all you really need to do is get a cable to connect the two together. This is just a D-tap to power port, and if you look on the back of this base station, there is a little power inlet right there, and that's how you will power the gimbal. So all I'm going to do right now is I'm just going to take this, and I'm going to go ahead and plug it into my D-tap. And I'm going to plug the other end up here into the base of the gimbal. Pretty much good to go, and then I can cut out my gimbal, and now you'll see my gimbal is all powered up and ready to go. All right, so now that I have a Dana Dolly and the gimbal all hooked up together, the first thing I want to do is I want to start now putting the SA2.6 eMOTIMO system here. And the first thing I want to put on there is this motor that comes from the system. And this is a pretty good, decent, powerful motor. It has no problem pulling this thing whatsoever. And you want to kind of, the key to putting this on here is actually these little poles right here. These allow you to secure this to your Dana Dolly shuttle. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead, and if you look here on the Dana Dolly shuttle, I actually have 1/4 inch and 3/8 holes that I can use to secure this. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and secure this right on there. So what I'm going to do, you have this 3/8 screw that comes with it. It has kind of a nice rubber stopper, and you can just kind of take this and just kind of fill that in by hand. So I'm just going to go ahead and pop that in real quick to get the first screw on there. Just kind of tighten it by hand. And then there's also this other 1/4 inch thumb screw that comes with it that you can go and basically get 2 points of contact. Now you want to make sure you do this. You want to make sure you have 2 points of contact anytime you put something on there, especially something that's moving, just because that really secures it on there. And now that I have that, I'll take a little screwdriver right off of my keychain, and I'm just going to go ahead and get the final little turn here on my motor. And now that I've done that, you will see that thing is on there rock solid. It basically just feels like a part of the Dana Dolly shuttle because honestly, now that I've screwed it on, it is just a part of the Dana Dolly shuttle, and now it just kind of lives right on there. Now, practically what you would need to do here is you would go ahead and start putting the belt system on before you do the next step. I'm going to go to do the belt system last just because I want to be able to freely move this thing around. I would probably recommend putting it on once you put the motor on. But just so you know, let's go ahead and talk about hooking up the SA2.6. Now, this is the SA2.6 body right here, and it's pretty small, and there's actually some Velcro that comes on the back. And so what I did is I just took a matching piece of Velcro and taped it to my Dana Dolly shuttle so I can go ahead and just secure it right there, and it's not going to accidentally slip off while I'm going. Really lo-fi, but really effective way to keep it on there. Now, as you look at the back of the SA2.6, you're going to notice a couple of important inputs here that make a lot of sense. You have a power, you have one to power your actually SA2.6 to the motor, and then you actually have something that you need to go to plug in up here to your gimbal. So now before I hook up the power to this, I do want to talk about hooking the motor up to this brain because it's kind of important. Now you'll see the ports on the back that I talked about. The big thing is you're going to see an M1, you're going to see an M2 port. You really want to make sure you hook up your motor to this M1 port. It's very, very important. Now, the great thing about this motor is once it's attached, it actually has a cable that's kind of built into the motor, so you don't have to ever lose it, which I actually really like because that's just one less thing to worry about. Now, one nice thing about the Dana Dolly is it does have this kind of hand grips here on the shuttle, and these are great for being able to thread wires up through and not worry about getting them in the wheel. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to bring this wire here from the back of the motor up, and I'm just going to attach it here to the M1 port. And what happens, it actually screws in. So I'm going to screw it in right here. And once I screw it in, you can see it's on there really well. It's secure. It's not going to go anywhere. Really something that's really, really important if you have any kind of moving system. Just a nice touch to keep anything from getting accidentally jugged or pulled out and pushed in a position you don't want it to be. Now, once I do that, I do want to power the system. So I'm going to go ahead and take this cable right here, which is a 12 volt, and just plug it in. Now, I'm going to bring this once again right up here through my system, and you will see I can plug it straight in, and now I can let the cable drop. And now all I got to do is hook this right up to a extension cord, and it can go all dead. Now, one note about this SA2.6, you can power it both from a plug-in source like this, or they do make a D-tap cable that goes straight into a V-mount battery. So if you want to go super efficient and you want to plug straight into D-tap, you can do that as well, and that'll get you completely free. I find myself using this in studios most of the time, so I just want to not worry about my battery power, so I tend just to plug this in. I do find that if I drop this straight down the middle like this and just have a nice extension cord with plenty of slack, it never gets in the way. I don't have any problem with cable management, and I don't have to worry about powering this thing all day long. So I'm just going to go ahead and get this plugged in. All right, now that I've got this thing all powered up, I do want to connect it to my gimbal because that's a big part of the system, right? So you have this little connector that goes from the SA2.6 up here to gimbal, and it connects right here to the side power port of your gimbal. Now you are going to need a Allen wrench, which is something you should always have with you anyway. And as you can see, it just kind of plugs in right here, and you'll go ahead and you'll just do it real quick. Takes just a second to get that in there. And it pretty much pops in. Really, really fast. Now the cable that runs from the connector has a really unique kind of port. You can see it's right here on the far right side of the SA2.6. You just take it, you hook it back in there, and you are pretty much good to go. Now, you want to make sure you have the power, and as you can see that red light? That's a good indicator letting you know that the whole system is connected. And now what you have is you have a connected system. And that really brings us to the last thing you need to look at, which is connecting the belt. Now, as I said, it's probably best to connect the belt when you're first putting on the motor. I'm doing this a little out of order just so I can show you everything and move this around. But the SA2.6 does come with this white belt that you can hook up to the system. It's about 12 feet that you can get on there. Now, I did talk with them over there. They said you can special order belts up to about 25 feet if you need extra length on your Dana Dolly track. They said over 25 feet, the system gets a little unstable. So, but if you're looking at anything, I think most of us tend to live in that 10 to 12 foot range. This is really where this is perfect for. Now, the key to hooking this up here is you're going to take it. It's obviously got teeth on one side of the belt. It's smooth on the other. So we're going to go ahead and we're just going to hook the teeth up here on the belt. And you'll see, and then we'll come back on the other side and hook the belt underneath these rollers on the other side. It kind of forms an upside down omega shape, and then it just pulls right out. And then once we do that, we need to connect it to these belt clamps that go on each side of the Dana Dolly. Now the belt clamps are pretty simple. They basically just slip right there on the end. You just hook it on the side, and they've got these little gears here that you can bring it in. I'm going to use this right here just to kind of show you a close-up example. Now what you're going to do is you want to bring this in here like this. You're going to loop it back around so everything is tight. You want to make sure you keep the tension up and it's tight. And then you bring it back again one more time. And what's cool here is if you look, you'll see this little tooth in there. This lets you get little micro adjustments on the system. What I recommend, just go ahead, pull yourself nice and tight, bring this back in. I'm just going to pull this back in. It's kind of hard to do point at the camera. And now, once I have that, I can just tighten this up, and you have the system in place. And that's essentially what you should have the belt system. The good thing is it doesn't slip this way, very, very rigid, but if you need to adjust the tightness a little bit, you can loosen this and move it back and forth to get micro adjustments on the tension on the belt. Now that I've showed you that, I'm just going to unhook this, and I'm just going to go ahead and hook this here on each side of the Dana Dolly. So basically I can just come here, I'll just hook this right here on the side, I'll tighten it up, you can just tighten it in. It lives right there really easy. I'm going to go ahead now, pull the belt nice and tight, just like I showed you. Okay, so I hook it up on that side, and now I'm going to just bring the port over here to the other side. So boom, once I got this thing all hooked up, now you can see I've got my belt that's connected to both sides. I've got good tension on there, and it's basically ready to go. Last thing I need to do is just need to pick up my PlayStation controller. Once I cut it on, it'll hook right up there. If you need to, you can also reset the Bluetooth, but it pretty much, once you hook it up the first time, pretty much always hooks up. And then I just come in here and I just go and I just select my points, and you can see now, I'll go ahead, I can maybe start off right here. I'll hit that as a point. I'll go to an end point. I've got it. And the whole system is pretty much ready to rock and roll. It's pretty straightforward. Now I did do, if you are interested in seeing a video on how to operate this, I did do another video where I kind of broke that down, and there you go. It basically is off to the races. So as you can see, it's a pretty straightforward system to set up. It just takes a couple minutes, and once you get it figured out the first time, you're gonna get it done a lot faster every time. It should take you just about 10 minutes to get up set on set. So it's very, very fast and very, very efficient. And the best news is once you get going with it, you just get this really nice, smooth footage that you can rely on and will run you all day. Anyway, guys, love to hear what you say with this. Leave me notes and comments down below. And yeah, I'd rather keep on shooting. And yeah, I'll talk to you soon.